welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today for this pick a pile reading for the full moon in Cancer, which is happening tonight on January 17th. This is the first full moon of 2022, and it's in Cancer, so it's going to be I feel it's going to be really highlighting emotions, bringing full illumination to how you really feel about things authentically, and also your intuitive feelings about things, because we are talking about Cancer here. So it's very much a time where you're going to be, I feel like people are going to be really sensing their truth and maybe wanting to speak their truth. So we might find some challenges coming in as far as like maybe misunderstandings, miscommunications, people really speaking their truth and having reactions to other people's truth. I feel like it's going to be one of those kind of full moons. But on a personal note, I think you're going to be feeling very connected to your intuitive truth. So let's get started here. We're going to use these 7 decks. I'm holding one of them to create 3 piles for you to choose from. And then you can receive your reading for this first full moon in 2022, which is happening in Cancer today. Okay, I'm going to start making the piles, and I will speed up the video if you would like to watch that or not. The timestamps for the 3 piles will be found below. Okay, my friends, see you in a bit. Okay, my friends, here are the 3 piles. Now, the first pile is right here, and this is Shungite. The second pile is in the middle, and that is a Sunstone. And the third pile over to the right is Labradorite, and that's on pile 3. Okay, so have a look. The timestamps are below, however it is that you decide which piles to choose, and I will see you in your reading. Pile 1. If you selected this pile, then you have reached your reading, pile 1. The crystal that I had placed on your pile of cards is a piece of Shungite. It's a beautiful piece, actually. It sort of has an interesting shape to it, and really beautiful lines. I think you can see them a little bit there in the camera. Now, Shungite is mostly carbon. Okay, 98% of its mass is carbon. So it's very, very good for grounding. It's very, very good for grounding, and it helps to also protect you against EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. It can be used sort of as a shield for electromagnetic rays, the EMF, and sort of, I like to put a piece of Shungite in my home next to all my electrical equipment. So there's a piece by my TV, there's a piece where I keep my cell phone at night, and so on and so forth. So it's very good for grounding as well, and can really restore emotional balance when you use it in your meditation. Can be very spiritually grounding. It really helps to anchor the body to the earth. So for pile 1, that may be relevant to, let's see what cards you received. I'm going to put your Shungite here. I usually interpret the crystal at the end of the reading, but I think I'm going to start with it because I think it gave us a little clue as to what's going on in your cards. Let's have a look here. Now, I was very selective with the decks I chose for this pick a pile. I wanted to get a bit of a range in the messages that you were going to receive here. So let's see what you got. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to start with this card. You received this full spectrum card. Now, this tells me, my dear friends, that it's interesting. I picked it first because of that piece of Shungite that you also were drawn to. So this full spectrum card is really a time where we're looking at the full experience. We're not picking and choosing and judging our experience. We're taking in the whole spectrum, right? And really not being concerned about judgments, what's good, what's bad, and sort of really evaluating our experience as a whole to sort of honor the whole full spectrum of life. And it really brings into question your perception of the spectrum of life, right? So it really calls in the question of what is your perception of your life? And, on a deeper level, are you creating sort of the notion of separation in your life by dividing things into columns of good and bad, and sort of this judgment attitude that perceives things in pieces rather than as a whole, which is sort of what this full spectrum card makes me think of, is sort of this idea of looking at things as a whole and going through the process of duality to come to unity, right? And to not stay in separation, but to observe separation and to merge those dualities, right? To almost see those polarities and then come to a center point where you're not lost in one perspective. It's an interesting concept to stay grounded, which is why I was sort of saying this is an interesting card with relation to your Shungite, because it really is a grounding stone. And I feel like this full spectrum card, even the image, makes me feel grounded. You can see all the chakras there, and the earth being sort of used as a landing point to ground down your energy and experience everything on a holistic level without that fear, right? And it's interesting. Another sort of implication of this card is to accept all things and to not pick and choose. I know I started saying that and then I kind of went off topic, but we've sort of been I don't know, cultured to believe that we should avoid negative experiences and seek out positive experiences. And it's sort of like there is a polarity there. That is a judgment where we're saying the negative is negative and the positive is positive. So what is your perspective on negative and positive experiences? Do you find negative experiences to have any benefit? Do you see positive experiences as the only ones that allow you to grow? It's a very interesting card to consider. And especially when taken with the other cards we see here. You did receive the Hermit card. So I feel like pile one must be on this introspective path where they're sort of looking at their journey in a way where they're trying to understand the totality of their experience. And in that process, I think it's going to be really important to be grounded, because you could get lost in the emotions. As we were saying, this is a full moon in Cancer, which is going to be very intuitive, could bring up a lot of emotions that you might label as negative, but really those are teaching moments, because if you're getting triggered by something or someone or an experience or some events, then that is a signal maybe that you require healing there, that trigger is there to show you something important. And it's not necessarily something to be avoided. Like we've sort of been told, if something's negative, just put it out of your mind. And the idea of focusing on only the positive really is sort of, I think, a misunderstanding, the way people take that sometimes, and really appreciating the full spectrum of your experience and not running from one experience. You know what I'm saying? It's an interesting consideration. It's an interesting consideration. I feel like pile one must be really involved in something to do with writing or preserving knowledge and information, because I see the scribe archetype here. So in the archetype of the scribe, usually it's someone who is like the card said, preserving knowledge and information. Now, the shadow attribute of that is altering facts or plagiarizing people's work. And so it's an interesting situation here to take this together. Makes me think that in your reflection, will you, as the scribe archetype, preserve and record information about your experience only if it's a certain experience or emotion? Do you know what I'm saying? It's interesting. During your reflection, maybe you're going to be journaling or not even physically writing, but preserving things in your mind in the sense of like remembering remembering, and maybe there's a bit of grudge holding. It's interesting, and that really is coming through right now. This idea of perhaps there is a bit of grudge holding, or the idea of I forgive you, but I'm never going to forget what happened. You know what I mean? Which creates an interesting dynamic where has it been forgiven then? It's intriguing. It's intriguing. So I feel like pile one must be going through something that's going to require them to sort of ground into their experience without avoiding things just because they're not positive, right? This is a time to really open up. Here's your other message here. Open up, heal old stories, practice loving self-talk, release personal judgment. You are limitless, be authentic. And so perhaps this negativity that you might be running from is something that you're saying to yourself. It's interesting. This could be a pile that's doing some shadow work and really needing to heal those old stories, to be authentic, which is really part of this full moon in Cancer, is to bring to light your authentic emotions, how you really feel about things, and how you communicate those truths, which is interesting because of that scribe archetype. I feel like you're going through an exercise, or maybe you're being called to go through an exercise here, pile one, where you really go through some of those old stories and heal them, right? Without judgment, releasing that judgment, that polarized perspective of I am good or I am bad. You are. And you're experiencing life as you go. And it's an interesting experience to look at from that full perspective, instead of looking at it in pieces, to look at the whole experience, which is, I think, why you're seeing that Hermit card as well. Now, excuse me, we also see be fearless and be bold, Badger spirit. So in your pursuit of your authentic truth, pile one, be fearless, be bold, be authentic, right? Don't hold back from those corners and spaces of your mind that you would rather not go to. Go, right? If something is triggering you, then go after it, but go after it with love and confidence in yourself, right? The courage of love is the other card you received here. And so this card really makes me think that it's a choice, that you have a choice as to how you're going to do this, either with the courage of love or the sort of the retreat of fear, right? And so it's an interesting combination of messages here for you, because I feel like on this journey that you're on to sort of look at things honestly and authentically and sort of make a record, right? Making a record, be it through your mind or through an actual physical journaling record, or however it is that you sort of keep track of your personal development. There's this feeling of holisticness to your reading, grounding, holistic, and this idea of healing old paradigms with love, and to have the courage to do it with love, because it can be very easy to look at ourselves with judgment and in a punitive way, but to look at ourselves with love and to heal things, believing that we are limitless and we can have a full spectrum of experiences, is really resonating for your messages here. Now, the final card that you got, oh my God, it's perfect, is from the Crystal Angels deck, and it says, it's a clear quartz, and the message says, let yourself feel all your emotions. Your entire rainbow spectrum of feelings is sending you an important message and guidance. Look at that. And you did receive the full spectrum card, my friends. Like, this is, you can't make this up. You really can't. This is a time where you're really being invited to feel all your authentic feelings. So I think that you can heal them. But you've got to feel them first, right? You've got to feel them first, and you've got to go through that exercise of sort of understanding the full spectrum of your experience, not just looking, like for some reason I'm feeling the need to tell you the example of like looking at a situation and saying, I was a victim. That was an abusive relationship and I was the victim. That might be your story, right? And I don't mean to trigger anyone, but if you keep telling yourself that story that same way, then you will always be the victim of that abuse. Instead of looking at that situation in a way, what was the result of that? Perhaps you are now the survivor, and that maybe that story taught you how to love yourself. It's interesting, my friends. It's interesting letting yourself feel all your emotions, your entire rainbow spectrum of feelings. Yes. You are really being invited to dive deep, my friends, into your feelings, into your authentic self, and heal any stories that seem to be triggering you into a place of like, for me, when I'm triggered, I start to feel defensive and frustrated. And suddenly for me, my big trigger is a worthiness button that gets pushed, and it becomes a how dare you moment. For a lot of us, it becomes a how dare you moment. So that's a good indication to know that you're being triggered by something external, that's opening up an old wound that's internal. And that needs to be sort of a pursuit that you do fearlessly, because it can be very triggering. It can be very triggering. And so to be fearless and bold as you, with love, allow yourself to feel all your emotions and to stay grounded so that you can sort of release anything to the earth that no longer serves you. And I feel like that's why I was drawn to give you the Shungite stone. So it's a very interesting reading for pile 1. And I hope it's been of some guidance for you. If it has resonated and you would like a personal reading, you can find my email in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and watching. And we'll see you in another reading very soon. Sending you lots of love and light, pile 1. Thank you so much. Welcome to your reading, pile 2. If you selected this pile, then you have arrived at your reading. The crystal I selected for you is my Sunstone tower. Now, this Sunstone is very, very powerful. Just like our sun in our solar system, this Sunstone removes inhibitions, removes hang-ups. It really amplifies whatever energy you're holding. And I feel like it can actually reverse negativity within when used with that intention. I feel like it can sort of switch things into a different perspective. It can really bring out the idea of self-empowerment and kind of removes any codependent attachments that may have hooks or cords in you. Do you know what I mean? And it can be a very powerful crystal to use in meditation to sort of free yourself of things that are no longer for you, no longer appropriate, no longer serve. Sort of allows your true self, your true authentic self to shine. I love it. So we'll place that there. And we'll see what cards you receive to see if they go along with that crystal. Okay, now let's see what cards you received. Let's have a look here. Okay. Interesting. Now, keeping in mind what the Sunstone represents, like we just talked about. Oh, sorry, I can't see all the cards. There you go. The first message you received is the Tower. And to me, the tower is really interesting because, first of all, it's a Sunstone tower. And second of all, more importantly, it's the idea of bringing sort of, I like to think of it as this powerful energy that tears down things that no longer belong, right? And that's exactly what you see in this version of the Tower card. The obelisk is coming down because it's broken and it no longer serves like this, and so it's got to go, and then a new obelisk will be erected. And I feel like that resonates for you, pile 2, because things have got to change. I feel like you're in a position right now where there needs to be an alignment, and that's the other message you received here is alignment. And this oracle message with the Tower really make me think that you're in a place right now where you're sort of looking at your life to see where do I need balance? Where do I need alignment? You know? And when I see these two together, it really makes me feel like you're seeing this alignment card because you need to be a vibrational match for whatever it is that your true authentic self is sort of imagining. It doesn't work like I want, or I'm afraid I won't have. It's like you have to be in the same vibration as that experience in order for it to sort of be realized, right? And I feel like you're seeing this card because there may be some sabotage happening for pile 2. I feel like pile 2 needs a tower moment to end that sabotaging perspective, pattern of behavior. You're needing to come into an alignment with your path, because I feel like right now you're working against yourself a little bit, and that there is a bit of self-sabotage happening here. It's interesting. I feel like right now your motivation is fear, and that's not serving you. And so it's like this karmic clearing is coming in to remove that fear, or to remove whatever it is around you that could be causing you to have that fear. You know, this alignment card really carries along with it that message of energy goes where your attention flows. And so if your thoughts are really focused on this idea of fear and things not working out, there is the potential for self-sabotage here. And so in order to attract something into your life, you need to vibe at that same vibration. And fear is a very low vibration and doesn't attract much, but other scenarios that cause fear. And so really this card and this card, these two together, are really calling you to shift your perspective about something. You know, it's going to be different for all of you who picked pile 2, but to shift your perspective about something, because it's like the question for you is, are you manifesting with love or with fear? And I feel like you're not going to manifest much with fear, except for more things to be afraid of. And you're going to start to see things, because again, where your focus is, that's where the energy goes. So if you've trained your brain to look for threats, then that's what it's going to find. And it's interesting that I say that, and then I look and I see that you received the dog spirit card, which is be loyal to what you love. And right now, the crossroads you're at is between love and fear. So, you know, it's interesting. I was going to say something about a dog and I lost my train of thought. But, I was talking about training your mind, right? So just like when you train a dog, right? You have to train it. It must be trained. If you just let it run wild, then what are you being loyal to? It's a fair question. And as I talk about that, here comes my kitty. Hi, Susie. What are you being loyal to? Your fears, or what you feel authentically drawn to? And I feel like you're receiving this tower moment here because you're needing to shift your perspective about how you're doing what you're doing, or how you're thinking about what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And it's a very interesting time to sort of look at your desires and manifestations to see, are you seeding them with love or not? You know, are you seeding them with love? And if you did shift your perspective, maybe you would be surprised what the outcome would be. It can't hurt, right? It can't hurt. And I feel like that's what you're being called to do here. Now, when I look at the crystal angel card you received, this is going to hopefully give you some encouragement. It's the Malachite card, which is very, very abundant energy. There is a positive shift in your flow of divine support. So trust it. Trust it, my friends. If you are feeling sort of like this pull to look at things in a different way, let yourself be pulled to look at things in a different way. See if it will serve your inner peace, which is the other message you received here. Inner peace, practicing equanimity, shine light in darkness, stay balanced within turmoil, and maintain a peaceful heart. Be a beacon for others. So this is an interesting message for you. There's the image, sort of this beautiful light in a storm. Sorry, my cat is hitting the camera tripod. Yeah, you know, if your feelings are leaving you in fear, right? Like that big scary storm, then you yourself need to be the beacon. You yourself need to be that light that shines. Because without that sense of inner peace, I feel like you're going to stay in fear and keep sabotaging whatever it is that you desire to manifest. And we want to move our vibration up. We want to move our vibration higher, away from fear, resentment, blaming. We want to move into trust and into that equanimity of sort of not seeing things in polarity, just, observing without evaluation, right? And to trust that if we keep our inner peace and if we keep our alignment and allow things to fall away that no longer serve us, then as we move along our path, we will be loyal to what we love, and we will be attracting those things that are in alignment with us, which is exactly the message you're receiving here, pile 2. Now, the other cards you received here for the archetype, you received the Knight. Now, each archetype has a light or shadow attribute, sort of a spectrum, I like to think of it. The light attribute is loyalty, romance, chivalry, a love of honor. And the shadow attribute is an allegiance to a destructive ruler principle, sort of a romantic delusions, if you will. And so this is interesting. This also makes me think of love versus delusion, and love versus sabotage, love versus something destructive. And this idea here that it's a destructive ruler or principle, that makes me think of self-sabotage. So it's really, as you march in as the Knight, you're either marching in as love or self-sabotage, right? Love or fear. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. I feel like you're being guided toward prosperity with that Malachite card, and that inner peace is going to be like a marker in your journey. That if you start to feel a lot of inner turbulence, then you need to sort of slow down and reassess. Are you still in alignment, or did something happen to throw you off, right? Or are you thinking a thought or perception or believing something that threw off your alignment? You really need to stay grounded, my friend, in your inner peace here, right? And it's interesting because when I was interpreting the Sunstone for you, I mentioned like that this crystal can help you release cords or hooks or ties, however you like to visualize them, of things that don't serve you anymore, to remove any illusions, which is exactly what the Tower does as well. Now, the final card you received here is the Young Bride in this Love I Ching Oracle. So the Young Bride is all about sort of going your own way and not really worrying about convention or tradition, and sort of feeling out what you think is right for you. It's an interesting message to go along with the other ones here, because it's really about freeing yourself, really freeing yourself here to eliminate the need even for convention, and this idea of being ruled by social norms that are established, right? To find harmony that love brings, right? That the ultimate harmony is the vibration of love. And so I really feel like pile 2 is being guided strongly away from any self-sabotaging thoughts during this full moon. Perhaps if you're going to do anything for the full moon in Cancer, like if you're going to do any rituals, it's time to sort of think about those things that you want to release, the things that make you feel a lack of inner peace, right? And to release those things, even if they're conventional and traditional. It's almost like this young bride, she is throwing caution to the wind, and she is saying, no, I'm going to go the way that feels right for me. It doesn't matter what the convention is, doesn't matter what tradition says, doesn't matter what social norms are. If it's resonating for me in the frequency of love, then I'm going for it, right? It gives me inner peace. It's worth it. If it makes me feel like, I am pursuing my prosperity and that I'm in alignment and I'm being loyal to what I love, then whatever needs to go can go. I will release it with love and gratitude, and I won't try and hang on to it because I know it doesn't serve me. Very interesting reading for you, pile 2. I feel like for the full moon, you can certainly release whatever it is that you feel may be holding you in a space of sabotage, self-sabotage, and this idea of coming into alignment with love, and whatever it is that makes you feel that love. And to pursue that. And it's interesting because that Malachite card really suggests that there is a positive shift in your flow and that the divine is supporting you towards prosperity. So let, even this be a message to help quell your fears and to encourage you to pursue what you love, because it is a reflective universe, my friends. If we are pursuing something in a high vibration and we match it, we attract it. So I feel like that's relevant for pile 2, but more so to allow the endings to happen, to allow things to leave. People, experiences, beliefs, thoughts, whatever. If it doesn't serve, it's time to go. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for you, pile 2. If this has resonated for you and you would like a personal reading, you can find my email in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and watching. And we'll see you again very soon for another reading. Okay, thank you, pile 2. Hello, my friends. Welcome to pile 3. If you selected this pile, then you have reached your reading, pile 3. Now, the crystal, I'm going to start with the crystal this time. I'm trying to get the shine for you here. Oh, there it goes. Beautiful. This is a piece of Labradorite, which is really, I think of this as the stone of transformation. Oh, that's great. Look at that. You can see the shine. It's beautiful. Now, this stone of transformation really prepares the body for ascension, the body and the soul. And it's highly mystical and protective. It really raises your consciousness and sort of deflects unwanted energies. I like to keep this one in my pocket and just sort of rub it throughout the day. It really does take you to another world. When you use it in meditation, it can really start to remove the projections that other people place on us all the time, projections of fear, projections of jealousy, projections of anything of a low vibration. Very, very useful when you're trying to create some change here. Really transformative, very transformative crystal. I find it's very good for psychic debris. Like I was saying, the projections of other people that, honestly, you've got to just sort of forgive, because I think sometimes people do that unintentionally, but it happens, and it can be very clearing for that. I really love Labradorite stones. I have a few of them all over my house. So this is interesting because it makes me curious about the cards in your pile, because the Labradorite stone is got a very clear sort of meaning spiritually for transformation and sort of elevating your awareness and consciousness, and again, that clearing out those energies that have sort of attached themselves to you. So let's have a look at your cards and see what messages we have for pile 3. Oh, wow. Very interesting. It's so interesting how it always relates back to the crystal. Okay. Now, let's begin here. I'm feeling drawn to start with, let's see. Let's start with this one. Awakened awareness. Very interesting considering what we just learned about the Labradorite stone. So this card is really one where you're looking at clearing distortion and illusion, right? Having an awareness of sort of your energetic sovereignty, which is exactly what I was talking about when I was saying the psychic debris that can come around us, yeah? And so it has to do really with this idea of this collective awakening and you becoming aware of it, and sort of becoming aware of the way that we are programmed, if you will, to see the life. And I feel like pile 3 is dealing with this during this full moon period. You're really coming into your own confidence around what you perceive, right? And clearing out illusions. It's really about looking beyond the veil of what you're told is true. And it's It's very interesting. This awareness can really activate your intuition, which is very fitting for this full moon. So I feel like pile 3 is going to be shedding any sort of restrictions or limitations that they have once been lost in, and it's interesting. It's almost like the veil, as it lifts, you're going to see how that was impacting your experience. And I feel like it's going to be very transformative for you, which is very fitting considering the choice of Labradorite for this pile. Very transformative time. It's almost like you're going to be getting a glimpse into a sense of freedom from things that it's interesting. Oh boy, these cards are all very interesting. I'm going to try and take them one at a time though, because I really feel like you're walking behind the veil to see the truth, right? And to see your true path. And I can't help but think that resonates for this liberation card as well from the Love I Ching. This is a time where you are liberating yourself. See how you walked away? Behind, you can see there is a city. You have walked away from that city, and you are realizing that that's not where the truth is, and this isn't a social commentary on rural versus city life. I mean it in the sense of, metaphorically, this city represents sort of that matrix, right? It represents the storyline we've been told. It represents the veil of illusions. And I feel like you are walking away from that illusion. You are walking away from that illusion, pile number 3. And as you do that, I feel like you are freeing yourself. You're no longer in denial. You're no longer attached to things that are an illusion. You are freeing yourself of attachment to things that were illusion. I feel like you no longer have this denial, right? You're no longer in denial. This is different. This is a different form of liberation where you sort of have, you've transformed. And I feel like you see things in a different way. Now, what's interesting is that I feel like it's almost preparing you for something, pile 3. And when I see the archetype that came out for you, it's the warrior archetype. The light attribute of that is strength, skill, discipline, the strong will, heroism, stoicism, and self-sacrifice in conquering the ego, which is very much tied to that. And the shadow attribute here suggests trading sort of ethical principles for the victory of at any cost, right? And that there's an indifference to the suffering that's inflicted on others. And so it's interesting. It's interesting. In one hand, on the spectrum of this archetype, you are conquering your ego through your will to even sacrifice yourself for the greater good. Whereas in the shadow, you're almost ready to take a victory at any cost, just to get it, just move on, right? Like it's an interesting spectrum. I feel like one is rooted in this veiled perspective and one is rooted in the unveiled. And so it's interesting. It's almost like an asleep warrior or an awakened warrior. And I feel like you're on the process of awakening. You're on the process of awakening. And this angelite crystal message here says here that you will be sort of spiritual or religious community with like-minded people and increase spiritual growth. And so I feel like seeing warrior, seeing the Labradorite, seeing awakened awareness, and this message of spiritual or religious community makes me think that you're going to be not only awakening on an individual level, but that you will awaken to a community in order to sort of become this warrior archetype and sort of be on the side of that holistic side, not the side that will take a victory at any cost, but one that is concerned about what the cost is, right? And the suffering that's inflicted, right? Now, it's interesting that you have the Queen of Wands here, and you also received this confidence oracle message. And it's interesting because there's the image, right? And there's the Queen of Wands in the deck I chose. And in both pictures. In this one, it's wheat and a bird. And in here, she's holding her staff and her lotuses. So it's a very interesting message, because this confidence oracle says here, release your inhibitions, be confident yet humble, stand tall in your authenticity, and don't rely on external validation. Your potential is boundless. Let go of self-criticism and perfectionism. And it's interesting, because to me, the Queen of Wands is very confident. She does release her inhibitions, and she does stand tall in her authenticity. She's quite attractive to a lot of people, and is sort of this energy that I always associate with being busy doing stuff that resonates, and having this constance around doing her thing confidently, whatever that thing may be. And I always think of the Queen of Wands as being very, very confident and knowing herself, right? That authentic knowledge. Stand tall in your authenticity. I feel like the Queen of Wands does that. And so pile 3, it's interesting. Being self-assured and easygoing is sort of the idea with the Queen of Wands, right? It's this idea of merging all of that into a confident projection that is again, it's very focused and yet easygoing. It's lighthearted and yet hardworking. And so it's a very interesting energy that you sit in here, very magnetic, very vital, right? Like that vitality is very attractive to other people, very, very attractive. And it's interesting because you also received the animal oracle card of Be Playful, which is interesting to me, because I think about truly confident individuals that have released their inhibitions and don't really care what the external validation is. They, not really paying attention to it, because they are so confident and yet they're humble. They tend to be very playful and lighthearted, and sort of can look at things in a different perspective, because they're not looking at the world through their wound, right? They're not looking at the world through their wounded eyes to see the pain and to see the evidence of their self-beliefs that are very limited. No, when someone is very authentically confident in themselves and humble at the same time, without that ego, right, which we saw in the the warrior archetype, this idea of conquering the ego, leaves you feeling very humble, because you have nothing to prove to anyone. So that's why you're not really interested in external validation, because you're standing tall in your authenticity. And you're boundless, you're limitless. And it's like you're awakening to that, pile 3, and it's liberating you. It's setting you free. And at the same time, I feel like it's going to attract like-minded individuals that will become a new community for you, as we saw in the Angelite oracle message here. I feel like you're going to be releasing in this full moon in order to attract more like-mindedness. I feel like pile 3 for this full moon, you're releasing your old belief patterns, and you're releasing your inhibitions, and you're releasing the need for external validation. You are releasing all of that, and you will in exchange receive a playful lightheartedness and a lot of confidence in yourself that's authentic. It's not rooted in, I'm confident because other people said blah, 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 blah. No, it's not a confidence that's built on the back of other people's opinions of you. No, it's built on your belief and knowledge of yourself, and your awareness of your connection to source, that you are a divinity in matter, and that I feel like you're a light worker. I think pile 3 is a light worker, and they're starting to realize that. You're a warrior, and maybe you have done this in other lives. Maybe you have, maybe you carry the warrior archetype with you because you're truly the Queen of Wands. You're ready to stand up for what is authentic, because you're confident, and it's not about your ego. It's not about proving anything. It's just about, like this card said here, the self-sacrifice in conquering the ego. And it's this idea, I think of being in service without it being an ego trip. That You just do it because now you've realized that that's what sets you free. And I think you're knowing yourself, pile 3. I feel like this full moon is helping you to understand yourself authentically, and it's setting you free. It's setting you free. And you've got so many messages about being set free. It's very interesting that they all sort of came out all at once with that Labradorite as well. And yeah, I feel like a lot of mysteries are going to be unveiled to you because you're going to start to see things differently. And really knowing that that divine spark is within us all, I feel is the beginning of it. And this awakened awareness could bring about healing. It could bring about a lot of energy could be actualized as you raise your vibration. It's very, very interesting. I feel like by allowing this to happen, you are going to be changed, transformed, just like this Labradorite suggested right at the beginning here. So very interesting reading for you, pile 3. If this has resonated for you and you would like a personal reading, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for liking, watching, and subscribing. And we'll see you again very soon. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Sending you lots of love and light, my friends.